I just want to make an input in this debate that has raged from the days of Olaudah Equiano with regards to the origin of the Igbos. There are many theories, but the most controversial is that links the Igbos to ancient Israelites. So many people scoff at it for several reasons. One of the reasons for which it is scoffed at has to do with an accusation of inferiority complex. But one thing we should ask ourselves, why the inferiority complex? The very first time this was mentioned, more than 200 years ago, maybe 250 years ago, or thereabout, what we should be asking ourselves is, what was the status of the Jews in Europe then, for which anybody would want to link himself with the Jews? We know that the history of the Jews in Europe has been much of despite, hatred, segregation. Most governments of those days were passing laws, passing decrees that were making things more difficult for Jews. They were relegated to slums. They were relegated to certain kinds of jobs. They were not seen as good people that other people should mingle with freely. They were not liked. They were not the kind of people anybody would want to associate with. So if it was a case of inferiority complex, what would anybody gain associating himself with the Jews? As at that time, it didn't make sense. Remember, even then, nobody knew that there would be a nation of Israel. Whatever fame Israel has now, whatever popularity they have now, they acquired from 50 years ago till date. Prior to then, nobody knew them. They were not a force to be reckoned with. In the days of Olaudah Equiano, there was no suspicion that they would even once be a nation. When other people were writing, like Bastin and the rest of them that wrote and compared Igbo with Israel, there was no Israel nation. Israel was not a nation. It wasn't even in the cards for most of the time these writers wrote. So anybody linking this to inferiority complex does not know what he's talking about. He's not arguing soundly. If the link was being made to Britain, to France, to Portugal, to Spain, to any of the powers of the slave trade or colonialism, then it would make sense. Yes, a slave may want to claim that he's of the same root with the slave master. That would make sense, but not with Jews that were not reckoned with. So the argument of inferiority complex does not hold water. One other thing people tend to bring up is the issue of DNA test. The truth is that there is no DNA test recognizing anybody as linked to ancient Israel. No DNA test, none has surfaced. A work done by Doron Beha et al. 2008 titled The Genome-Wide Structure of the Jewish People. One of the statements made there says, no ancient Jewish DNA samples have ever been formally published. None. We have other accounts saying the same thing. For instance, we have this: genetic markers cannot determine Jewish descent, Raphael Fock. In that same statement, he made this statement, said, it becomes overwhelmingly clear that although Jews maintain detectable vertical genetic continuity along generations of social, religious, cultural relationships, also intensive horizontal genetic relations were maintained both between Jewish communities and with the Gentile surrounding. Thus, in spite of considerable consanguinity, there is no Jewish genotype to identify. Then you still have this other statement being made. However, the increasing reliance on scientific reductionism in biological thinking of the last 2 centuries eventually culminated in turning the evidence of DNA sequences into the essence of the characterization of Jewishness rather than its sequence. Still, in spite of repeated efforts, there is no agreed upon criterion to identify Jews, and samples examined for the distribution of biological or molecular markers all depend on the preconceived biases of the investigators. You can hear it again. There is no Jewish DNA. There is none. So anybody using DNA to rule out the Igbos' link to Israel is not being informed. In the absence of DNA, something else plays a very important role, and that is language. There is something in the Hebrew language that is so peculiar to the Hebrew language that is not found in any other language. It is so peculiar that you can call it the core DNA of the Hebrew language. Maybe I can call it the Y haplotype of the Hebrew language. Look at the views of scholars with regards to this. It is known as the infinitive absolute. Now, look at this statement made here. It says, the infinitive absolute is, as God Health Bextresas remarks, a peculiarly Hebrew hybrid of verbal noun. Take the emphasis. Peculiarly Hebrew hybrid. Peculiarly Hebrew. Take that emphatic phrase. Peculiarly Hebrew. Now, what other testimony do we have about the infinitive absolute's uniqueness? It says here by another author, R.H. Kenneth. It says the infinitive absolute is, as stated above, peculiar to the Hebrew. Now, mark again the stress, the emphasis. peculiar to the Hebrew. Peculiar, the infinitive absolute, is peculiar to the Hebrew. Let's get another witness. This one wrote and said, the intensifying infinitive absolute in Hebrew, a telltale sign of Hebrew origin or influence. A telltale sign of Hebrew origin or influence. That is the infinitive absolute. What does that mean? That wherever you see the infinitive absolute, it's talking of a Hebrew origin or a Hebrew influence. Now, another witness, this time by James Edwards, and he wrote and says, an undeniable Hebrew convention is the infinitive absolute. He went on to write, the infinitive absolute is unique to Hebrew and has no parallel in any language besides Hebrew, whether Aramaic, Syriac, Greek, or Latin. Let me repeat. This infinitive absolute is an undeniable Hebrew convention, so unique to Hebrew that it has no parallel in any language besides Hebrew, whether Aramaic, Syriac, Greek, or Latin. There is no other language that makes use of the infinitive absolute. So this infinitive absolute is the greatest DNA marker of the Hebrew language. And the question is, how did the Igbo language come about the infinitive absolute? Not just sparingly, not just fleetingly, but so copiously that billions of the infinitive absolute are spoken every day from the mouths of Igbo speakers worldwide. I mean billions every day. It is a core part of Igbo language grammatical structure. How did Igbo language come about it? Now we need to find out what exactly is this infinitive absolute. Another writer wrote and said here, by far the most frequent use of the infinitive absolute in Hebrew is its substantival employment as the object of a verb derived from the same stem. Object of a verb derived from the same stem. Or of a verb of kindred meaning. Kindred, similar, synonymous meaning. So it's either the object and the verb are gotten from the same stem, one stem builds both words, or the object is gotten from a word that is kindred, similar, synonymous to the verb. Let us look for examples of the infinitive absolutes. This one is not an example, but this one says something. It says the infinitive absolute was dropped out of use in post-biblical Hebrew. This tells you that aside Bible Hebrew, the Hebrew that was used to write Bible, we don't have the infinitive absolute seen or spoken anywhere else. So that the Igbo speaking the infinitive absolute draws back not to these present Jews, but to the biblical Jews, the ancient Jews, ancient Israelites. Those are the people we should be comparing Igbo with, checking custom to custom, tradition to tradition, language to language, religion to religion. This is where the Igbo language found power in the infinitive absolute. Let me still go to the examples of the infinitive absolutes. There are many examples, many in the Bible, but I just had to pick some. I can't go through everything. Here it says, a dying, he will die. A dying, he will die. That is the infinitive absolute being translated literally in English. You see, dying, the object dying, the verb die are borrowed from the same stem. So a dying, he will die. English will simply tell you, he will die. But the Hebrew puts it, a dying, he will die. You won't find this in your Bible because it was translated here, he shall indeed die, or he shall surely die. But what you have literally in the Hebrew is that a dying, he will die. Let us try to put this in Igbo and see if it makes sense. I've been putting it literal. A dying, he will die comes out. Omumu, that is a dying. Oga, he will die. Omumu, oga. Any Igbo speaker knows that this is perfectly Igbo. A dying, he will die. Perfectly Igbo. Go and tell him, a dying, he will die. Look at other examples. I will bless you blessing. I will bless you blessing. Nga agozigi ngozi. This is perfect Igbo. Igbo speaks infinitive absolute. Nga agozigi. Agozi ngozi. Gozi ngozi. Gozi ngozi. Agoziri gị ngozi, agozila gị ngozi. Okwenye agoziri ngozi ka ịbụ, m ga-agozi gị ngozi. That verbal repetitions. Now another example says, I will multiply you multiplying. Just observe the words multiply. The English will simply say, I will multiply you, or I will bless you. But the Hebrew, using the infinitive absolute, uses two words, one of the same stem, or kindred words, say the same thing. I will multiply you, multiply. Let us still try to put it in Igbo. Nga amubage muba. Nga amubage muba. Another example here is that I was stolen stone. Is that not pure perfect Igbo? I was stolen stone. Another example reads, the man warned us warning. Nwoke ahụ chiri anyị echichi. Nwoke ahụ chiri anyị echichi warned us warning. This is pure Igbo, is what experts are telling us is peculiar, unique to the Hebrew, with no parallel. Pure Hebrew, a telltale sign of Hebrew. He will rebuke you, rebuke. This is another example. He will rebuke you, rebuke. Oga abarage mba. Oga abarage mba. He will rebuke you, rebuke. They must be carried. Age eburu ha eburu. Age eburu ha eburu. You see the way the verbs play. You may find other examples in things like ochiroche, oriri, nri, okwuru, okwu, ochere, uche, oguru, ebu, ororo, oro. You can see this is perfect Igbo. Like I said, billions of it are spoken every day. How would an Igbo person make 2 or 3 sentences that would not employ the infinitive absolute? Almost impossible. Now, when you add the other part, like was mentioned, kindred meaning, it says object of a verb derived from the same stem, or of a verb of kindred meaning. They gave us an example with gladness, my joy. Gladness and joy are synonyms. So it is employed just like you would have had ochiroche, but you now remove the ochere and replace it with a synonym. Now, do we have such in Igbo? Yes. We talk of ilu ogo, oloro ogo. What is ilu? Ilu is fight, ogo is fight. There are 2 synonyms being employed, just like it was said here. 2 synonyms, ilu and ogo. Ibe akwa, obere akwa, ọ na-ebe akwa. Ị ga-ebekwa akwa, mee ihe ibe akwa. Ibe is what? To cry. Akwa is cry. 2 synonyms, just the way they said. Kindred meanings, either from same stem or of kindred meaning. Ihi ụra, ohi ụra. Unu na-ehi ụra, unu na-ehi oke ụra. Ihi ụra, ohiela ụra, ọ na-ehi ụra. What is ihi? Ihi is to sleep. Ụra is to sleep. Ichu also both have to do with synonyms. Ichu is to chase, also is praise. Ito ochi, pleasure, ochi, laughter. Iti mkpu, iti is to shout, to scream. Mkpu is to shout, to scream. Ikpo oku, ikpo. If you ask anybody what is ikpo, he will tell you to call. What is oku? A call. Ikpo oku. But you're having the synonyms coming together. Rather than having verbs from the same stem, you're having verbs of kindred meaning, just like they told us infinitive absolute operates either from the same stem or from kindred meaning. Iku oka. Ego, abu. What is ego? Singing, abu, song. So you can see that Igbo language is an original employer, creator, user of the infinitive absolute. Like I said, it is not used in the Igbo language sparingly, rarely, periodically. It is fundamental. So how come Igbo language ended up with this core of the Hebrew language, this DNA core, this fundamental attribute of the Hebrew language? This is something to think about. There are many proofs Igbo linkage with ancient Israel. Mind my emphasis, ancient Israel. There are many proofs. People doubt it. People say, give us proof, give us this, give us this. You are doubting everything. If you doubt culture, if you say, okay, we learn circumcision, we learn to put menstrual women apart, how about this language? Did we learn it, or was it part and parcel of Igbo language? And mind you can't learn such unique sentence structures in person. Even if you learned it, it means that you have lived with these people for generations. You have mingled with them for generations. But this is not just all about learning. There are more copious examples of this in Igbo language that mere learning can account for. Now, apart from this fundamental unique Hebrew attribute, the Igbo language has exhibited some other similarities or characteristics of the Hebrew. But this one I want to give is not peculiar to the Hebrew. You also see it's not just in the Hebrew. It is known within Semitic languages. It is called Adad, what I want to call Adad phenomenon. Scientists have long been aware of the existence of a considerable number of words possessing mutually contradictory meanings. This phenomenon, adad, is especially common in Arabic, but is by no means lacking in Hebrew. In fact, medieval Hebraists Menahem ben Taruk, Abu Waliki ibn Gama, Abraham ibn Ezra, Joseph Kara, and others noted individual instances of this usage, like Berek, bless, and curse, and many others. This is an example of your adad. Igbo exhibits the same thing, mutually contradictory meanings, as they said, from the same roots. Mind you, adad could be seen in other languages aside Semitic languages like European languages, but those ones were not built from roots. They are usually a situation where two words over time ends up with the same spelling and same sound. Oversight is an example in English. But the Semitic ones come from the same root and end up with contrasting meanings. Adad in the Igbo language follows the Semitic pattern with a root word giving us words that are opposite to themselves. Some examples. Lie, bury. Lie also means arise. The same words can be used as bury, put something under, arise, to get up. Iji means to hold. Iji means to split. The same root used for to hold something together and to split. Idu, lead. Idu, accompany. One talks of being at the leadership. The other one talks of followership. Ure talks of right, form, elegance. Ure talks of the composition, the same root giving you opposite contrasting meaning. Ichi to reign, Ichi to sleep, Jiji, trembling, Onama Jiji, trembling. No Jikam, Jiji, trembling, Jikam, the same root providing opposite meanings. Eho to grasp, Ihotago, Kahotaramu around to grasp. Eho to elude, Oga Ahoge to elude. Ito to be trapped, Ito to be loosed. Ugu, a hill, talking of upwards. Igu, downwards to dig. Words contrasting meanings from same roots. Elo to marry, love, goodness, togetherness. Elo to fight. Ero to build. Ero to spoil. Easy to show. Izo to hide. Ipa to accumulate. Opa lack. Iso to follow. Iso to avoid. Inu a light. Inu to die. Chi, daylight. Uchichi, darkness. La, leave. Law, return. You can see the contrasting meanings from same root. Allah, ground. Elu, sky. Ulu, voice. Voice is outward projection. Ilu, inward, to swallow. Iha, to let go. Amaka. Iha, to stick, to capture. Ahia is a market, a place of gathering. Ihia is a failure to gather. Failure of an event. Ohiala. Izu, to purchase, to acquire. Izu, to steal. Egu, form. Egu, trade. You can see that the Igbo language exhibits perfect adad phenomenon in the manner of Semitic languages. It is no coincidence. It is because the people who have this language, like we argue, have Hebraic roots, and you are seeing it here. Now there's so much to talk about the Igbo language with Semitic patterns, root words. Igbo languages are made of root words like Semitic languages. The word Igbo and the word Hebrew, when analyzed based on their root words, strictly root words, mean exactly the same thing. Travelers, nomads, mobile people. We won't have time to go into all of them, but think about the infinitive absolute. Think about it seriously and always ask yourself that which experts say is very unique to the Hebrew. How did the Igbo end up with it? Let me just repeat in closing what is said of the infinitive absolute. The infinitive absolute is, as Gotthelf's restaurant remarked, a peculiarly Hebrew hybrid of verbal noun. Another witness said, the infinitive absolute is as stated as both peculiar to the Hebrew. Another witness said, the intensifying infinitive absolute in Hebrew, a telltale sign of Hebrew origin or influence. Another witness says, an undeniable Hebrew convention is the infinitive absolute. The infinitive absolute is unique to Hebrew and has no parallel in any language besides Hebrew, whether Aramaic, Syriac, Greek, or Latin. And I ask, how come that this very unique DNA of the Hebrew language is a core and fundamental part of the Igbo language? The answer is obvious. You are dealing with the same people. God bless you.